Many thanks for joining us. This is the news on NTA International. We're live in Abuja. I'm Ruth Aguele. Let's take the headlines. Presidential task force set to sanction medical practitioners who conduct unauthorized COVID-19 tests. Nigeria joint search for COVID-19 vaccine as the National Response Committee kicks off. Plus, Nigerian Governors Forum commends presidential task force on tackling emerging cases of COVID-19. Let's begin the news with the latest on the presidential task force. Health workers have been urged to adhere to government regulations and always use personal protective equipment in their own interest and that of their loved ones. Minister of Health, Dr. Osage Hanire, said this at Thursday's briefing of the presidential task force on COVID-19 in Abuja. He promised more community testing and social mobilization at the grassroots to encourage wearing of face masks to prevent infection.
Private facilities must obtain accreditation in order to be allowed to treat this highly infectious disease. Practitioners engaging in unauthorized treatment of COVID-19 run the risk of being shut down, their hospitals being shut down for decontamination. This next phase of our strategy in the health sector, due to the available evidence of increasing community transmission in Nigeria, now focuses on community response rather than individual travelers and their contacts.
Task force revealed that the target this week is to significantly increase testing capacity and open new laboratories in the northeast geopolitical zone, adding that there is a global shortage of personal protective equipment, which is why the Ministry of Health is giving more sets of equipment to hospitals handling COVID-19 cases. In the meantime, Chairman of the Presidential Task Force, Boss Mustafa, commended state governors who have taken the bold initiative to lock down their states to contain the spread of COVID-19, calling on them to ensure stricter enforcement and not relax restrictions. He called on security operatives not to be overzealous with Nigerians, who in turn should be polite to them. And let's bring you our latest updates from the NCDC. 34 new cases of COVID-19 have been reported in Nigeria. The breakdown shows that 18 are in Lagos, 12 in Kano, 2 in Katsina, and 1 each in Delta and Niger States. As at 11:20 p.m. Wednesday, 15th of April, there are 407 confirmed cases of COVID-19 in Nigeria, out of which 128 have been discharged and 12 dead. And on the global scene, reports indicate that Europe is currently in the eye of the storm of the coronavirus pandemic, as confirmed cases on the continent is nearly 1 million. Joyce Ametu is standing by with details on the global scene.
Figures by Worldometer as at 6 p.m. local time on Thursday show that the total number of COVID-19 cases globally is 2,116,304. 141,845 people have died, while 535,174 have recovered. In the United States, President Trump says the country has passed the peak of new COVID-19 infections. This is coming as the number of deaths climbed to 28,640. And in Europe, while some countries began easing restrictions gradually, the World Health Organization European Regional Director said the number of cases on the continent is close to 1 million. Europe has confirmed 988,587 cases, while the death toll is 90,447. Italy has the highest death toll in Europe. In France, 668 people who were aboard a French aircraft carrier, Charles de Gaulle, when a coronavirus outbreak occurred at sea, have tested positive for the virus. France's COVID-19 death toll is 17,167. Meanwhile, the Africa Center for Disease Control and Prevention said it will roll out 1 million COVID-19 test kits by next week to help countries across the continent tackle a glaring shortfall in testing. Across the continent, 18,136 cases have been confirmed so far, including 918 deaths. 3,904 people have recovered. South Africa, the country with the highest cases on the continent, has recorded 7 new deaths as a result of coronavirus, bringing the total number of deaths in that country to 34. And that's it from here. Thanks for staying. I am Joyce Umetu.
Many thanks, Joyce. Let's bring more report on COVID-19 back home. The Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 has been commended for effective coverage of the nation's health system during the initial 2 weeks lockdown and determination to tackle emerging cases within the period of extension. Abubakar Usman Akwanga reports that Nigeria Governors Forum made a commendation during a teleconference meeting with critical stakeholders in the fight against coronavirus pandemic. Let's see that.
The forum expressed satisfaction with the performance of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 and the NCDC. The Governors Forum commenced the delivery of essential equipment, distribution of palliatives to vulnerable persons, as well as synergy with coalition against COVID-19 to support states' response to the pandemic. The forum also engaged Aliko Dangote, Herbert Wigwe, and Governor of the Central Bank, Godwin Emefiele, on strengthening mechanisms to reach more vulnerable groups and improve on existing health facilities. Chairman of Nigerian Governors Forum and Governor of Ekiti State, Dr. Kayode Fayemi, says the forum will constitute infection prevention and control committees to support the role of health workers who are at the front line of the pandemic. He said hotlines have been established across states to ensure emergency services are integrated into operations of the task force on COVID-19 and promised to review operations of businesses during the lockdown. In Abuja, Abubakar Usman Akwanga, NTA News.
A National WASH Response Committee for COVID-19 has been inaugurated as part of strategies of the water, sanitation and hygiene WASH sector towards providing the necessary support for the national fight against the coronavirus pandemic. Water Resources Minister Suleiman Adamu presided over a maiden edition of virtual conference of the WASH sector National Committee, which included state commissioners of water resources. Let's hear from Musbah Udan Wahab.
All hands literally on deck, and various measures are emerging as governments at all levels search for a common solution to an uncommon global challenge, COVID-19. Water and sanitation are key in the preventive measures identified so far, yet millions of Nigerians are still yearning for them. So, lockdowns would not come in between as the National WASH Committee assumes its critical position to finalize strategies and ways to support the containment of a coronavirus pandemic. The federal government has been mobilizing stakeholders through various policies and programs under the National WASH Action Plan. But Water Resources Minister Suleiman Adamu says the reality of COVID-19 across the world is pressing more for an accelerated effort in the sector.
Despite all the messages that have been going on hand washing, on cleanliness, on not doing open defecation, we have not got the speed that we wanted, and now we are faced with this pandemic. Now is the time that we really have to face this business of water and sanitation very, very seriously.
WASH is very important for the fight against this virus. And so that puts us in a position, a very critical position, to ensure that we do our best to support the government in this fight.
While seeking additional national and international support in this quest, the National Wash Sector Committee says it is also developing short, medium and long-term measures to reposition the sector. In Abuja, Musbao and Wahab, NC News.
In another development, we hear Nigeria has joined the world search of coronavirus disease vaccine. Now, this is reflected by the government upgrade of molecular testing laboratory located at the National Biotechnology Development Agency. Musa Baba Ali reports that Nigerian scientists are to look at antigen and antibody identification, focusing on those who tested negative of COVID-19.
Scientists are yet to produce vaccine against coronavirus disease. However, people are being recovered from the disease. Most of the recoveries are attributed to antibody response. This lab, located at the National Biotechnology Development Agency, is equipped with capacity to produce rapid diagnostic kits for both antigen and antibody identification.
Once you are diagnosed and you are positive and you are placed at the treatment centers, and you are treated, and you test negative for the virus, then it means that your body has generated enough antibodies for you to survive. So we can harvest the antibody in you and overproduce the antibody for other people to use.
Minister of Science and Technology Ogwannaya Onu is here to assess the lab in readiness for production of COVID-19 antidote.
The vaccine is so important to us. Vaccine for this SARS-CoV-2 virus is important, and we believe that once we're able to domesticate that technology, we will also transfer that technology to the production of vaccines for so many diseases. So we want to assure you that the support we've been giving to NAFDA will continue.
Alex Akpa is in charge of the facility. He assures that with funding from the ministry, Nigeria will contribute largely in the eradication of COVID-19. In Abuja, Musa Baba Aliyu, NTA News.
All right, joining me in the studio to talk more on this new development, talking about the vaccine, is Dr. Alex Akpa. He's the Acting Director General, National Biotechnology Development Agency. Thank you very much for joining us, Dr. Akpa.
Also, Professor Akpa.
Thank you very much for joining us, Dr. Akpa.
Thank you.
All right, now I must say this will be a very big feat for Nigeria, that is if we succeed in it. But what's the role of biotechnology in the search for this COVID-19 vaccine?
Biotechnology is fundamental in the development of vaccines for COVID-19 and in fact all other viruses and all other bacterial infections. This is because in modern times we now do not produce vaccines using attenuated organisms. Instead, vaccines are now produced using parts, little bits of the organism, are now what is used to develop vaccines. Those days when attenuated versions were used, you find cases where a few individuals still come down with the disease. But with the advent of biotechnology and the use of bits of the organism, it is now technically impossible to have any situation where somebody who has received the vaccine comes down with the disease. So that's the trend all over the world, the use of biotech in the production of vaccines and the other biopharmaceuticals and even biologicals.
Okay, and Nigerian scientists we hear are to look at antigen and antibody identification, focused on those who tested negative on COVID-19. But do we have the competency, since we have joined the league in this production of the vaccine?
Oh yes, in NAFDA we have the competence, not only in our Abuja headquarter office, but also in our center in Odi, in Bayelsa State. At these two centers we have the capacity to identify the antibody, antigen levels in individuals. And this is particularly important at this time because we need to identify such people who got coronavirus antibodies in them, because that means that for that group, we can expect that they have some resistance for the disease, and in which case they are the people who can actually safely go out to work and go out to do that even without using either the face mask or any other protective device. This is particularly, again, important when it comes to the workforce. It's important for us to test the workforce, the right proportion of the workforce, so to identify those within the working group, work class, who can safely go to work without any additional face masks or even the hand sanitizers and so on, because they are already naturally protected from the disease.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Alex Akpa.
Thank you.
We do wish you success talking about NAFDAC and the production of it. All right, let's take a break. We'll be back shortly, so stay tuned.
Action. Make your home the place to be with GoTV's super cool kids channels.
That sounds fun.
From funky friends that'll keep even the little ones busy.
All right, everybody, let's do this!
To learn as you watch educational shows for curious young minds.
You can do some amazing things.
There's plenty for everyone. Tune in to our kids shows and get everything you need to keep the kids entertained and learning the fun way. GoTV, live it, love it.
All right, thanks for staying tuned. The Economic Sustainability Committee, chaired by Vice President Professor Yemi Oshibajo, with a couple of ministers as members, holds its third meeting this Thursday at the Presidential Villa in Abuja. The committee, set up by President Muhammadu Buhari, is looking at the various ways and means to support each sector of the economy. Speaking to the press at the end of the meeting, Minister of Finance Zainab Ahmed says the meeting is working ahead of the World Bank projection that many economies will go into recession this year as a result of the coronavirus pandemic.
We are looking at various ways and means to support each sector of the economy, providing for each sector clear interventions that will be designed with the primary purpose of creating jobs and ensuring that businesses stay afloat during these difficult times. We are working in the next couple of days to finalize our report, to submit the report to His Excellency the President. But remember that the President already announced an initial package of 500 billion. So now how that 500 billion will be used, and also subsequent interventions which will be rolling out when funds from the multilateral institutions come in, is what this committee is working on.
Right, let's look at compliance in the FCT as the 2 weeks extension of the lockdown enters day 3. Olabode Arewa reports that security agents are having a hard time enforcing the lockdown in some of the suburbs in the FCT.
At the Jukwe and Karu areas of the FCT, the lockdown recorded limited compliance.
Since I have been around here, there is free movement. Okada are moving.
The issue of lockdown, anyway, is our own benefit favor. You understand? Because we don't know who is who. I may have the sickness. Why you don't know?
Well, I just came out to get kerosene now to cook, and the place, there is no kerosene, there is no market. So we are not really finding it easy at all. But we say thank God. I will go back and find another alternative because it's for our own good.
At the Yanya-Maraba boundary between the FCT and Nasarawa State, health workers who were on ground to check motorists and passers-by at the hectic time.
As you can see, the work is going on, and we ensure that the total lockdown is effective.
The 2 weeks lockdown in Abuja, Lagos, and Ogun States was renewed by the President on Monday night. In Abuja, Olabode Arewa, NTA News.
And residents of Abuja living along the airport road are soliciting the intervention of the government over the gridlock being experienced by motorists on that axis. Now, in spite of the sit-at-home order issued by the federal government, Haman Jabani reports that in the last 3 days, residents have been lamenting over the situation.
Oh, what do you want me to do? Where's your ID card? Good, so go. I've allowed you to go, but I will not allow others to go. You say you want to clear my doubt. How dare you?
This is the scenario on the airport roads coming into the city center. All members of the force are on ground to ensure that those who are out without reasons are turned back as motorists struggle to pass the checkpoint. Christiana Issa, a staff of National Hospital, says she has been stuck in the traffic for 3 hours. She believes that a better plan could be applied to avoid what she calls an unnecessary delay.
Now reaching here, they have stopped the taxi to drop me here. And now I don't know how to reach. Should I turn back home and receive credit from my boss? Should I check to the hospital? I don't really know what to do next.
Some motorists that spoke off camera agree that most people plying the roads have no business being outside. Although the task force personnel declined commenting on camera.
Appealing to the public, they should stay at home. The order put in place by the government is not for the government interest to ensure that the community transmission of this COVID-19 is stopped.
Hamman Jabani, NTA News.
Thanks, Hamman, for that situation report. Let's look at judiciary matters. COVID-19 regulations, Mem number 7, exempted courts from total shutdown. Now, it stipulates that matters that are urgent and time-bound will be heard. I'm now being joined in the studio by legal practitioner Eje Monday Eje to tell us on how the various levels of courts are adhering to these new measures. Thank you very much for joining us, Barrister Eje.
Thank you for having me.
All right, now, how would you describe the operations of various at various levels of courts in effort to curtail the spread of COVID-19?
The courts have so far done very well. We are aware that at various levels in certain jurisdictions, the courts have sat, particularly with a view to hearing matters that are urgent and then are necessary in the circumstance. For instance, I'm aware that the Court of Appeal, Abuja Division, have been sitting to take matters, criminal matters to be specific, that concern criminal appeals, and some of those appeals actually have applications for bail, which means there are certain persons that are currently in the correctional services that have applied to come out on bail pending when their substantive appeal is taken. So, and in doing that, I noticed that the courts have actually kept to the protocols that needs to be kept. And I particularly appeared in one of the matters, and I realized that the court was not stuffed with litigants or lawyers. We have in between us 2-3 chairs which meet with the requirement of the 1-2 meters. And then we were made to wash our hands before we entered into the premises. And of course, some lawyers like myself have our own personal hand sanitizers as well.
Okay.
And I'm also aware that in Lagos, some certain persons had some private parties where the protocols for the lockdown or for prevention of the spread of COVID-19 was not maintained.
Okay.
And then they were arraigned, which is also a pointer to the fact that the courts are working. This morning I also got informed that certain mobile courts as well will be set up to ensure that the lockdown...
I think they've already been set up in Abuja, because our correspondent earlier, showed us the situation at some areas where the mobile courts have been set up. But let's look at what the CJ and Justice Ibrahim Tanko issued a directive that all visitors to the Supreme Court must undergo temperature check before they, access the premises. How are they being complying to this directive?
Yes, like I said earlier on, washing of hands for the period of 20 seconds or thereabout I mentioned is one of such. Then the temperature check is another. Of course, we know that in most of the places I've had to visit to attend to certain emergencies, that particular check is non-negotiable. They have to check your temperature, and in most cases they will also let you see what it reads, so that they will know if there is a symptom, one of the symptoms, because one of the symptoms has to do with the
temperature.
The temperature, yes.
All right. Thank you very much, Barrister Eje Monday Eje. Thank you very much for your contribution.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
All right, let's look at all the issues. The Save the Poor Coalition says the creation of the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development is a bold step to lift the poor people out of poverty and to prosperity. This is in reaction to a view canvassed by a member of the National Assembly that the distribution of cash transfer register in states was a fabrication and was full of fraud, and that the ministry lacks the capacity and structure to carry out the assignment. The statement by the National Coordinator, Emeka Enechi, quotes the Save the Poor Coalition as saying that it is happy that the minister in charge of the ministry has taken steps to update the National Social Register she met on ground, thereby proving that the program is not a fraud. The organization enjoins Nigerians to support President Muhammadu Buhari's desire in lifting millions of Nigerians out of poverty. In other news, the Center for Ethical Rebirth among Nigerian youths has commended President Muhammadu Buhari for the extension of the lockdown order in the Federal Capital Territory, Lagos, Ogun State, by 2 weeks, which is in line with the trend globally. Serani is sufficiently persuaded that Mr. President has once more provided responsive and responsible leadership at the most critical time in the life of the nation. Serani, however, wishes to warn that this commendable extension order should not be mistaken for an opportunity or excuse for our youth to indulge in drug abuse. The president of Association Chuks Akamadu, in a statement, noted that a dispassionate evaluation of both the dreaded coronavirus and the scourge called drug abuse will show clearly that they are lethal. And let's talk sports. Kene Ima Abodike will lead us.
Nigerian athletes will soon heave a sigh of relief as the Minister of Youth and Sports Development, Sanda Dare, has concluded plans to float an athlete relief fund. The fund, which will be funded by the proceeds from the National Lottery Trust Fund, partner agencies, corporate bodies and individuals, will take care of the welfare of athletes, their training, preparation and participation in major international competitions. The modalities for the disbursement of the funds to the athletes is expected to be worked out with guidelines to be provided by the minister. The Nigeria Archery Federation says its schedule of training programs will be intensified as soon as coronavirus restrictions are lifted, even as archers across the country are advised to remain focused ahead of future continental and global engagement.
The good thing about archery is the fact that it is the real individual sport. It's not a contact sport. You don't need a second person to do your training. If you want to do your training, the manuals are there. The digital manuals are there. The hard copy manuals are also there for you to do your training. So for us here in this part of the world, we haven't lost much except for the excessive training and group trainings that we're supposed to have.
Meanwhile, efforts are being sustained by the Athletics Federation of Nigeria towards ensuring that athletes come out stronger and more prepared to pick tickets to represent the country at scheduled events after the coronavirus pandemic.
For you to attain into these championships, there has to be some level of fitness that you have to be, and training that you have to be on. And unfortunately, athletes are staying at home. So the call now is, the only option remaining is to exercise and practice at home, individually, and then try to, they say necessity is a mother of inventions.
The Federation has plans for both local and foreign training camps for athletes ahead of crucial qualifiers. With Sports Update, Kenen Ima Abodike, NTA News.
All right, we're done. Thanks for your time. I'm Ruth Aguwele. Bye.